like to we'd like to ask everybody to mute their microphones and submit comments through the chat. If you've got a complex question, we can open up your microphone. The other thing is that I may have just noted the session is being recorded and we'll be posting it on YouTube. So by remaining on the call, you are consenting to any contribution that you make being posted on YouTube, and you won't receive any compensation for any contributions that you make. Okay, so today we have Leanne Stanley giving an overview of the IVF selection process for the International Federation's World Sprints in London, UK in August of 2022. So I'll just hand it over to Leanne.
Thanks, Ron. On this call, we also have Scott Gorley, who's on the CORA IVF Committee as well. We're missing a few people, but they may pop on later. So it's not just me that runs this stuff. We do have a committee. But I'm here kind of as our spokesperson today to walk you through what the selection process is for 2022. It has started, for those of you that didn't know. We are now accepting the intent to compete. And so this is an online form that you fill out. You can find it on our webpage under the national team link, under the 2022 selections. And Eric will be posting that link with the recording of this video for any of you that need it or can't find it. So that will be there. Where is I going to start? All right. So with the Sprint Championships, if you've been before, then this is going to be repeat for you. If you haven't been part of the process before, then this is all going to be new. We know it is a little bit confusing because ultimately Canada is a big country and we want to give everybody an opportunity to have an opportunity to be on the national team. So there's some people that don't have clubs. There's some people that do have clubs. There's some people that are in clubs where no one else is interested in sprints or competing at the world level. There's people in clubs that have lots of people that love to compete at the world level or try to, and then have, sorry, I'm laughing at Dean's comment to Jonathan. People are already recruiting team members on this chat. There's people that have lots of people that they can choose from to try and put crews together. And so whether what we call a free agent, which is you're kind of a lone wolf, you're the only one in your area that kind of wants to do this. You can't talk anyone else into it. Or if you come from a club and you've got lots of people keen, there's a spot for everybody to try out. And so that's the process I'm going to walk through. So the easiest one to look at is the V1 trial. So V1 is a rudderless OC1, so no steering pedals, you steer with your paddle. These are 500-meter sprint races at the world level. For our time trials, we will be doing 500 meters in a V1, just like we would at the Worlds. So when we talk about trials, we have, in the past, we've had a West trial, and sometimes we've had an East trial. What will determine if we have an East trial for our, yes, straight shot. What determines if we have an East shot trial will be determined by the intent to competes that are due by July 21st. So that's the form on the website that you have to fill out. If we don't have people from the East filling that out, then we won't consider an East trial. So if there's people in the East that are like, hey, I want to try out for Worlds, I want to make sure that we have a trial in the East, then get your friends, get them to put the intent to compete in, because unless we see that, when we start reviewing the data on July 22nd, if there's not enough people to warrant an East trial, we won't have one. Right now, I don't have anyone for an East trial. So for V1 right now, and what it will be is for V1, because we only get 3 boats, so that's 3 people in each age division, except for the age divisions that Canada won medals in 2018, our last World Sprints. So our age divisions are U16, U19, Open, Masters 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. So in Women's Open, we have 4 spots because I got bronze in 2018. In Women's 40 or Women's 70s, we have 4 spots. Sorry, there's a mosquito, and usually they're not out until sundown. In women, and that's thanks to Sue Milligan for the medal in 2018. In men's 70, we have 4 spots, and that's for V1 In men's 70, thanks to John Amundsen, who won a medal. So all other categories only have 3 boats. So because there's so few spots and often V1s are so closely contested, everyone has to be at the same trial. So that will be in the West. So if you want to try out for V1, you're going to have to come to the West. After we review the intents, we'll be confirming the dates for the West trial. Tentatively, it is September 18th, 19th in Calgary. Do not book travel. Do not book travel. Because again, COVID can throw a wrench in anything. So if COVID throws a wrench in stuff, then there's going to be a backup plan, and we'll announce that when we have to. But at this point in time, we are going to aim to have a trial in Calgary. They've been gracious enough to offer as host, but we still have to confirm the venue and solidify everything once we get all the intents in. So do not book any travel. I'm going to say that a lot tonight, so just be prepared for it. So that's V1. So yes, it's a 500-meter straight shot down the lane. Ideally, you've played in a V1 if you want to trial for V1, or taken the rudder off your OC1. Because if you can handle an OC1 without a rudder, when you get in a Tevenui that we're going to be trialing in, you're usually pretty good. Oh, we got Rob Magus here from our IVF committee as well. Thanks, Rob. Just in case I fall off, or if I miss something, either Scott, please jump in. So that's V1. Now, the next one, I'll go to the next easiest one, is the elite competition. So the sprints themselves, the world sprints, are split up, and there's actually 2 competitions going on in the same event. So they have what's called the elite competition, and that's where we take the best of the best of the best from the countries, and you get 1 crew in open, so any age, and you get 1 crew in U19. So that's elite. So that's like your top paddlers of the country. We try and get you together, and we compete against the best in the world from all the other countries. So in 2018 at the last World Sprints, our women did extremely well. They got a bronze medal in, we got a bronze medal in the 500 V6. And I think we were 4th or 5th in the 1500 meter. And then we didn't have a crew for V12. The men, I don't know the results off the top of my head, but they might have made the finals. Anybody remember? Scott, do you remember how our boys did? If I hear crickets, then I'll take that as you don't remember. But we can always look up results. Oh, I hear a voice.
I think we are about 5th or 6th or something like that overall.
Okay, so they would have made finals. Cool. So yeah, all the results from past IVF Worlds can be found on the IVF website. So if you just Google International VA''A Federation, you can find their website. If you just Google IVF, you're going to find a lot about fertility treatments. So you have to Google International Federation. So for the elite, those will be OC1, straight shot, 500-meter trials. You may have to go down the course more than once, because we'll want to put people that are close together in that first shot, in that first heat. If things are close, then we'll want to see people head to head. So if you're going for elite, you may end up doing a heat, a semifinal, or a final, or a heat and a final. But the finals doesn't mean 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th necessarily. It may be that we take the top. If there's like a clear top couple, we may take them out and then put the rest together. So like the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, like those people that would be on the cusp, and put them together. With elite, again, depending on how many people we get on the intent to compete, or people trying out, we would love to have V12s for elite this year. We didn't have necessarily enough for elite that would not screw up club crews, and I'll explain why that is later. So yeah, if you're interested in being best of the best of the best and paddling with the top folks, then sign up for elite. Doesn't matter how old you are, you could be 60 and try out for elite. It's all up to you. If you think you want to play that game, by all means, come join us. Eric, did you have something you wanted to add? Oh, okay. I thought I saw your finger up as a point. Okay. So with elite, so if people are forming their own predetermined crew, so that's elite, that's V1, done. If you try out for elite, if you try out for V1 and you make it for elite, you make it for V1, you are now what's the word I'm looking for? You could be picked for drug testing at the Worlds. So if you're on the elite crew or you are a V1 paddler of any age, you can be picked for drug testing. You will be asked to sign an anti-doping form. Just know that. For those of you that don't know what that means, that involves having someone watch you pee in a cup. And then they will test it. So it's not the most comfortable of experiences. And there's some of us that have had trouble going when they ask us to go. So you have to keep there, sitting there and drinking water, and hopefully not miss your medal ceremony. This is going back to 2010. What other years? 2008. So we have had Canadians picked for this. So it can happen to you. It is supposed to be random, but sometimes it doesn't seem so random. So so that's the elite championships. With club crew championships, so they've, like in drag boat, where they've got like the Worlds and then they've got the club crew championships and they're in alternating years. It's a similar concept, but IVF has put the two in 1 week. So the elite goes the first 2 days, they go through all their races, and then the elites are done, and then we start the club crews. So unless you're in Tahiti or New Zealand, a club crew can be any group of paddlers from anywhere in the country on a crew together. In New Zealand and Tahiti, and in the rule book, it says you have to be members of the same club. But the IVF has stated that they understand that most countries cannot do that. They don't necessarily have a big enough club structure within their country, or clubs that have the ability to field a full crew. So we are allowed to put together people from multiple clubs or no clubs, because we have people on here that don't have a club, which is fine. As long as you are a member of CORA, you can be on a club crew together. So what we do here in Canada is we have 2 processes for you to qualify for a club crew. We have what we call the free agent process. So those are people that, like me in Kelowna, this year, my club isn't interested. There's no one in my club that wants to go. Other people have other priorities this year. There's people that are still COVID sensitive. And so they're just not willing to risk traveling to London, or they need another year off, and they'd rather go to Hilo in a couple of years than do London next year. So for me, I could very well be a free agent. So that would mean that I've put on my intent to compete, that I'm filled out the free agent part, saying that I want to compete in my age group. I may want to race down, because I now have the option of racing down because I'm 40. So 40 is my age category. And then I may choose to put my name in the pool for open as well. So at the trials, what this means is that I have to attend trials. I have to race OC1, 500 straight shot. The boats in Calgary are Sea Lions. I have to do that trial to find out where I end up on a ladder. So with those trials, we'll end up with a ladder, and then the CORA IVF Committee will look at those names and take into account what the results were, what's the person's experience, and where are they located in the country. And then we'll look at those 3 things, and then we'll put together crews. So these free agents trial in OC1, they will be Sea Lions that Calgary has. So right now I have no free agents in the East. So free agents and club crews, this is what we'd be looking for in the East to run an East trial. Right now we don't have any. If we do get a bunch, then we will try and find a host for the trials. And Lewis Lowe, I might be looking at you, and we'll talk in a couple weeks when I see you, if we need an East trial. But this would be the same process. If we have the East trial, this would we be doing with the East, because ideally we want to team you up with people in the East so you can train together. And Sharon will talk about what will happen if you can't attend the trials. We'll talk about that at the end here. We'll talk about special cases. So that's the free agent thing. We'll end up with a ladder because everyone comes in OC1. And then we will end up with a ladder. We'll look at that. We'll take in things into consideration. And then we'll announce the crews at the end of that first day. Because, here's the caveat, we only have 6 crews per age category for club crews. So 6 per age category. So that's U16, U19, Open, Masters 40, Masters 50, Masters 60s, Masters 70s. So each one, we get 6 crews allocated to Canada. So if we have less than 6 crews in our formal registration, so that'll come out in August, the formal registration, you'll be asked to pay a fee, which will be your registration for the trials. If there are less than 6 crews, like less than 6 club crews and clubs, people of free agent status that would make another crew, then there won't have to be a race off for that age category. Everybody would be appointed a spot. So that means those predetermined crews, those people that sign up as a whole crew already, they wouldn't have to race off at the trials, which means it could save you a whole trip to Calgary. But right now, things are filling up pretty good. Just in the last week, we've gotten a dozen more people on the intent to compete form, which is fantastic. And I know a bunch of people were waiting for this call to get more information or the recording of this in order to sign up. And by all means, if what I'm saying is speaking gibberish to you, that's okay. It's taken a lot of people, even on our own board, a few times through walking through different scenarios to figure out what the different options are. By all means, if you still have questions, feel free to reach out to me, Leanne at CanadianOutrigger.com or IVF at CanadianOutrigger.com, or reach out on Facebook, and those messages can get directed towards us. But either way, just get a message to us, or if you have my phone number, which a lot of you do, give me a call. Happy to walk you through your specific situation. So free agents, you trial 500 meters, straight shot, you'll get put in on a ladder, you'll get placed in a crew. Then there's clubs, if we're talking about clubs that, so I'll use Fairway Gorge and False Creek because they're 2 of our larger clubs here that have people interested in sprints that are on the call right now, because Kelowna's not interested, so I'm gonna leave them out. But there's groups of people within those clubs, or a bulk of people, that are like, hey, we have a bunch of people the same age or relative or close to the same age. We want to be a crew within ourselves because we already train together, which is awesome because we know that training together definitely helps. Timing is key. Communication is key. So being able to train together, we recognize that that is a fantastic thing. And we also want clubs. This is a great goal for clubs in themselves to build towards and to build their programming towards. So if you've got juniors starting off, or if you've got novices starting off saying, hey, this is something you can work towards together within our club. It's a really fun goal. So, well, I think it's fun. I'm clearly biased, but you all know that. So within that structure, again, on paper, you don't have to be part of the same club. You don't even have to be part of a club. But if you're 6 people that, you know, are going to be regularly trained together and know that you would make a good mix, you can sign up as what we call a club crew, which has been also called a predetermined crew in the past, or a PD crew. So in the document itself, I think we use the term club, but that also means predetermined if you're thinking of language that we've used in the past kind of 6 years. So if you have a crew of people that you know work well together, you train together, you're from the same club, or you're from the same region, fantastic. You all need to fill out the intent to compete, each and every single one of you, please. Okay. If one person signs it up and puts your name in the crew, this is concussion me still, doing most of the data analysis. And hopefully I can get Robbie and Scott and others to double check it, kind of thing. You may get missed on the list. But you also have the option, if you're a part of a club crew, a PD crew, that if your crew only goes, oh, we're 50s, we only want to race 50s together. Fantastic. But if you're a 60-year-old and you're like, hey, I want to be considered as a free agent for 60s, even though my club crew is 50s, you have the option on that form to check off that you want to race as a free agent for 60s to possibly race 2 divisions. There's no guarantee that you'll be allowed to, because ultimately we want to have maximum participation from Canada. So it may be looked at going, okay, you already have your 50s crew. We want to include someone that might otherwise get left out on one of those free agents crews, so they get an opportunity as well. So where was I? Okay, club crews, PD crews. So on the second day of trials, So PD crews, you do not have to race off in OC1s because your crew is already set. You're setting your crew yourself or your coaches, if that's the situation that you're under. So for PD crews, on day 2 of trials on the Sunday, PD crews will race off against free agent crews if there are more than 6. So say we had 40 PD crews in, say, women's 50s, and we had enough people to make 3 crews from free agents, then those 7 crews would have to race off for those 6 spots. So just because you're a PD crew doesn't necessarily mean that you're guaranteed a spot. You will have to earn it against the free agents and against the rest of the PD crews. So yes, the free agents are at a disadvantage because they won't have paddle together, but we're kind of hoping that they'll, take the opportunity to maybe use a boat after the trials to get together and sort things out. So that's PD crews. Now, the next thing is, if you are turning an age, so 2022, if you are turning 60 in 2022, you are considered Master 60. If you are turning 19 in 2022, you are considered to be 19 years old. So you would be considered U19, or you could race open. So if you are working with juniors, or if you are a junior, with the U16, the youngest you can be, I believe, is turning 12 in the year 2022. And you can't turn 17 in the year 2022. So you have to be 16, between 12 and 16. If you are trying out for U19, the youngest you can be, I believe, is turning 4. You have to be 14 in the year 2022, but you can't turn 20 in 2022. This is spelled out in words in the selection documents if you are a visual learner and you need to read it. It is also in the IVF rules posted on the IVF webpage if you need to read it. Or you can ask me and I'll send you the copy from the copy and paste from the IVF rules, which I've done to a few of you already. If you are open, to compete in open, you have to be at least 16. I believe it is in 2022. Don't quote me on that. I haven't quoted that one in a while. To be in the Masters 40s, you have to turn 40 that year. So you could be 39 come August 12th, 2022, but as long as you turn 40 by the end of the year of 2022, you are considered Masters 40. I was so pumped for that year because I was going to be first year's Masters this year in Samoa because I turned 40 this year, but no dice. Anyways, I just gave my age to all of you. Lucky. You guys are now in the privileged few that know actually how old I am. So that's the age categories. Unfortunately, if you turn 80 in 2022, you're still considered 70 plus. So, because we've got some pretty hot paddlers that are gaining more and more experience every year. So if you're in your 80s, by all means, you are welcome to try out as well. Unfortunately, we don't have an 80s plus category. We only have a 70s plus. So, but you're more than welcome to try. And from talking to people so far, I know we've got at least 2 70 plus women's crews already that are talking or worth of free agents that are coming. So, man, you got to step up your game there. Let's at least have as many as the ladies have. All right, so that's age categories. That's V1, that's elite, that's free agent process, and that's Dean, or Jonathan, you're a hoot. I love it. For those of you that aren't watching the chat, Dean Doherty was asking Jonathan Wilkins if he's 70 yet. And it was a caps lock, no. But what just came back was Jonathan asking Dean if he's 80 yet. So if you see me giggling, that is why. If you're watching the recording, you don't get the joy of seeing what's going on in the chat. So I just thought I'd share that with you. Those two are two of our experienced paddlers that bring a lot of fun to our trips when we travel. So it's always nice to have you guys going on. Oh, we know of 3 men's 70s teams. Yes. All righty. So if you're looking at, V1, I don't know if I want to do it. If you're looking for past trials results, you can go under past results on the CORA webpage and you'll see the results from, you can go into each year and you'll have all the races from that year that were CORA. And if there was trials that year, those should be posted there as well. I can't remember what we put in the selection document, if we put the V1 select 10 seconds from the third place or not. I don't have them in front of me because I'm on my phone, not my computer right now. But you can find benchmarks either within the document or by looking at past trials, or you can text me, call me, email me, and I can tell you, if you tell me your age category and what gender you are, I can tell you the benchmark off the top of my head. If you're talking about OC1, if you're looking at a free agent type of deal, again, if you want an idea of where around you should be, if you want to be competitive, again, there may be a benchmark in the document. I can't remember if we included it or not. But you can also look at the past results and see people that were in your age category and what they did at past trials. Note that in the trials for Hilo, which would have been fall of 2019, because Hilo obviously was postponed till 2024, those trials were done in a blizzard in Calgary. So take some of those times with a grain of salt, because freezing fingers and snow blocking your vision can definitely affect your time, just saying. But you can also go back to the trials for Tahiti that would have happened in 2017 for Tahiti. And yes, Gail, along with the snow angels that I still have the video of that I can post up on CORA of those crazy kids doing snow angels. The trials for 2018 Tahiti would be in 2017 race results, and the trials for 2016 Australia would be listed in the 2015 race results. And then there's been a bunch of questions popping up here, and Eric, they've popped up so quick and my memory is so poor. I can't remember ones that have come up, but that is my spiel. I'm happy to repeat. This is open for questions now because we want to make sure that you folks walk away with an understanding of what's going on. And remember, there's going to be people that are watching this recording that probably have the same question that you do. So there's no silly questions. There's no dumb questions. There's no, excuse me, could you repeat yourself? It's all good. Happy to say everything again, but specific to your context to give examples if that helps people.
There might have been
Eric,
a question. There might have been a question that Lisa Robertson asked regarding V12 crews and how those are selected.
All right. So V12 crews, again, we've got the elite. And again, depending on how many people try out for elite, we'll determine if we can do an elite V12 or not. And depending on how people end up on club crews after. Oh, thank you. That's what I forgot to say. If you are on the elite crew, so a club crew, so whether that's a free agents put together as a club crew or your predetermined club crew, you can only have 3 people that were on the elite crew on your club crew. So we ran into this with the Kelowna Club. We had an issue with that in 2018 in Tahiti because we had potential 4 people that could have been on the elite crew that were on the club crew. And so we talked amongst ourselves of going, okay, what are we going to do about this? What's more important to each one of us is how do we gauge our interest in elite versus club? And one of those persons was the best teammate ever. She was so team oriented that she's like, it means more to me to be with the 6 from our club than to team up with some people in the elite crew. And I love that there's people in this world that think that way. Unfortunately, I'm not one of them yet. When I slow down a little, maybe I'll get there. But she graciously bowed out of the elite competition so that it would keep our club crew together. And I still bow down to her. So thank you. She knows who she is. Because our club crew had a blast and we did so well and we made every final. And so you have to be aware that if you have a predetermined crew, but there's more than a couple of you signing up to try out for elite, know that by signing up for elite, that could screw up your PD crew. That means that you might have just lost the option for those people to try out as a free agent. So if you think you might be in that situation, and I've already talked to one person that might be, their crew might be, we need to figure that out beforehand of playing the what if game. And what is the likelihood of different people ending up in that 6 elite crew that might be on your predetermined crew. So if you're a 70s crew, you may not have to worry about this, but you ladies keep getting faster, especially especially some of the ones that I'm working with. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're getting so much better. I love it. I get inspired by you ladies every day. And guys, I
Leanne,
don't know how to do it lately.
there's a question from Larry Burrows that's pertinent to what we're talking about right now.
Oh, perfect.
His question is, what would a club crew race-off look like, assuming there are more than 6 crews contesting an age group? And in his case, let's just pick 50s. Let's just choose 50s. So what if there are what if there winds up being a race-off for that particular age group?
So what it would look like, there would definitely be a straight shot 500. As the committee, again, because we haven't had to do this situation much, we're still in discussions, and that's why it won't be announced until August. Because the free agent crews wouldn't have opportunities to practice turns, we have to discuss whether that would be a fair option to make everybody do turns, or if we just make everybody do race a straight 500. So that would be announced next month. So you can guarantee yourself that the racing off for those 6 spots would have a straight 500. If or not, there'd be a turn race on top of that, would have to do with how many races we have to run in a day, because we know people have to, fly home and travel home as well. We can't run till 6 o'clock in the evening. So for the number of races, and then also in the committee, we have to vote on, is it fair or not to make a free agent crew that just got thrown together the day before do turns against crews that could have been practicing for, a full month once it got announced, or a month and a half. So that is a debate that the CORA IVF and possibly the CORA board would have, but it'll be announced next month when we give, sorry, more mosquitoes. We will give, when we give you the confirmation of the trial dates and locations. So stay tuned on that, but plan at least a straight shot. If you are in a predetermined crew, club crew, as you are kind of deciding that now, never hurts to start working on your turn strategy. The more you do a turn, the better, in terms of my coaching opinion on those ones.
All right, thanks, Leanne. A segue on that question. There are within the CORA membership some fairly obvious large populated age ranges. So, people we have large populations of people over the master's category. So let's say we have club crews who are cobbling themselves together in preparation for the deadline, which is July
21st?
July 21st. Yep. Everyone should be reminded of that. But let's say they're cobbling a crew together. How does the age division, how does the age combination work in crews like this? So if you've got a club crew with 2 people in their 60s and 4 people in their 50s, maybe just review how that works, how that looks from the IVF standpoint.
Fantastic question. So if you are open doesn't matter, open's any age, but if you're 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, so with your example, it is based on the youngest person. So if you have 4 50-year-olds and 2 40-year-olds, they are classified as Masters 40. Those 40-year-olds cannot race up into the 50s category, but 50s can race down. 60s can race down. 70s can, so you can always race down all the way down to open. And then some of the younger kids can race up to open depending on if they meet the minimum age. So it's based on your youngest paddler. So if you've got, I keep using our Tahiti crew as an example because it's an easy example. We had 2 women in their 50s, 2 women in their 40s, and 2 of us in our 30s, and we raced open. And then they replaced the 2 of us in our 30s with 2 other people and raced 40s. So they got to race 2 categories, where those of us that were open age, we could only race 1 because we only had 1 option. We're only our 30s. We have no other options but open. So it's based on your youngest one.
Leanne, I'm going to use that comment for another segue. Mike Matthews has added a quibble to this. If you have crews who want to race down, so let's say they're racing 70 in the 70 category legitimately, but they also want to race in the 60 category, do they have to trial in Calgary, for example, in both areas, in both divisions?
If there are more than 6 crews vying for those 6 spots, yes. So on the intent form, and this will be confirmed with the registration. So the intent forms are just to give us ideas. On the intent form at this point in time, when you're checking off predetermined or club crew, and it's saying, it's giving you the option to race in another age category. So race your category, and do you want to race option down? So this is why each person on the club crew needs to do this, because as a crew, if you've decided that you want to race down as well, fantastic. I'm blocking all 6 of you off, and I'm putting you under the multiple age categories. We may or may not, again, depending on participation numbers, we're trying to maximize participation. So just because you're a 70s crew and you'd like to race 60s, we may want to try and give a 60s crew an option to do it. They may not otherwise. So again, just because you may want to race down, you may not be permitted to. If you've already filled out your intent form and you need to make changes to it, you can, by all means, you just go right back into the form and it'll allow you to update your answers. If you just click on the same link and put in your same email, and it'll take you back to that form, or it should. If not, just let me know and I can update the spreadsheet that I have going with all your information if it doesn't let you update the form for you. And I know some of you have already updated your form because it gives me notices when you do that. Or it gives all of us on the CORA board. We can all see that in the data.
Leanne, one member of the audience asked what the club crew boats are in Calgary. What are the OC6s? What models are they?
In Calgary?
Yeah.
Advantages?
Okay,
I'll put that on my list of notes that I'm taking that I will find out for you. I just get in the boat Linda tells me to.
Of course, yeah. So for those in the audience who want to see answers that we may not be able to field today, just check the IVF page, including the link to this video afterwards. It should be available tomorrow, and we'll populate the answers that we couldn't address today. So we'll try and get to all of them.
So there's a question from Judy Comer. How soon after July 21st do you think you'll be able to announce whether club crews have to trial?
We won't know that until we get the formal registrations in. So it'll probably be the beginning of September. So August is going to be registration month,
Okay.
which means you pay your fee, whether or not you end up having to trial or not. If you just get to claim the spot, you still have to pay the fee. But the intent form is just for us to plan trials. There's going to be another form that you will have to fill out, which will be the official registration that will happen. So that official registration will run for August. The due date for that will be early September. So probably the beginning of September, because we need that information, one, to let people know, on those people on the cusp of those club crews, of if they have to travel, but also if they, who needs to travel and who needs to trial. And Judy just piped in saying that they are Bradley's from the 2012 Worlds that were hosted in Calgary that they would have for us in Calgary. So thanks, Judy Scott, for joining us today. And I'm so glad that you're looking forward to, you're on this call for sprints, because hopefully that means you're going to paddle. So excellent. So that answered that question. The V6s that would be trialed in would be Bradley's.
And then there was also Sharon's question from earlier, if you can't attend the trials?
If you can't attend the trials, in the selection documents, there is information about this. Ultimately, what you have to do is you have to petition the CORA IVF Committee and state your reasoning. And then they'll come back to you and ask you some questions. They'll probably get you to do a solo trial GPS of some kind, possibly supervised by one of the committee members. It's all going to be pretty individualized based on how many people and what the reasons are that you can't make trials, because we've been letting everybody know that it's going to be September, but we know things happen. We know that illnesses happen. We know that family members may need you. We know that people get hurt, that kind of thing. But please don't overtrain for trials. Because if it's an overtraining injury, then that gives us a lot of information about how you might prepare for Worlds. It doesn't work in your favor. Just saying. So if you can't make it, please petition the IVF Committee. You can send an email to ivf@canadianoutrigger.ca right now, because I still have to work with Eric about the IVF Sprints email, because I haven't gotten back to you, sorry.
And then Amanda also is asking whether that same process applies if 1 out of 6 on a club crew can't attend.
And that's kind of a gray area for the club crews, the predetermined crews. So if one can't attend, up to you guys, petition the committee or select a spare in their place. Because ultimately, the crew that you have right now that would come to trials and the crew that's going to Worlds, if someone gets sick, injured, can no longer go to London, you would be responsible for filling that spot. So if you need to bring a spare with you that's doesn't want to trial as a free agent, because if they are wanting to trial as a free agent and you're asking them to be a spare, you're taking them out of a free agent crew that they could be in. So you're basically screwing that person over unless you're going to actually use them as a spare on your crew and take them to London as part of your crew. So again, those are very individual situations. If you have that problem, please email us at IVF at canadianoutrigger.ca so that we can help walk you through the what ifs that would go along with that. Because it's kind of a bigger conversation as that replacement of paddlers kind of thing. One for trials, because ultimately the fear, obviously, and those people that we like to think that people would not do this, but people that would bring in a ringer for a trial just to get the spot and then replace them for London with a significantly weaker paddler. So that's what we're trying to guard against, or bring in two ringers. So that's why it needs to be an individual conversation about what to do in those situations. But I know you guys are all excellent, upstanding sportsmanship type people that you would not do that type of thing, right? I'm looking for nods here from everybody. Thank you. All right, next question.
There was a question from Tracy Sutton about U16 males, and then Lori Valesic replied that Falls Creek is working on U16 crews. I'm not sure where Tracy's located or whatnot.
Tracy's with me in Kelowna.
Okay.
We have some keen U16s in Kelowna. I got out with them last weekend. So yes, if there are other clubs or groups out there that have U16s that may not have full crews, we need to talk. And we've got the CORA message boards up and running again. Eric and Ron helped get that going this week. So the CORA message boards are up and running. If you are interested in kind of finding out who else might be interested, especially the juniors thing, let's chat about the juniors on there, because I know I have at least 4 in Kelowna. And yes, Tracy, I'm counting your son, even though he missed practice last Saturday, that could possibly be interested, but we may need to fill those up. So just if you don't have full crews, by all means, let's chat. Juniors is something that I know the CORA IVF Committee is really keen on filling up as much as we can for London, for Hilo, for every sprints going forward. We want to try and field maximum number of junior crews. Because the crews, if we think back to 2008, 2012, when we had a lot of junior crews, those juniors are now like in their 20s and 30s, and they're coming back into outrigger clubs after they've kind of gone to school. Now they're coming back, and that passion is still there, and they still talk about their experiences in Sacramento and Calgary. And so it's so cool that they're now, these kids that we remember from those times are now adults and our colleagues and our teammates. And it's a great thing. So yeah,
Leanne,
anything we can do to get those kids out.
that's a mixed blessing, Leanne, because that also indicates that the rest of us are much older. But I just want to, there is a question from Leslie about lane widths for turns. So in the IVF rules, it indicates a 25 to 35 meter span for buoy turns. You know, as a steersman and a crew that's training, it would be good to actually know what that, because that's a big difference. 25 to 35 is a huge difference. So is it actually set in stone, or is it based on the race director at the sprints itself?
It's based on the race director and the race course at the venue. So if you look at the rule book, it's basically 2 of the V6 lanes equals the turn lane. So you turn from what would have been 1 straight shot lane into another straight shot lane. So the widths of the straight 500 lanes can be anywhere from, I think, 12 to 15 meters, 12 to 16 meters. I'd have to check the rule book again. So basically all you have is those 2 lanes, turn from one lane into the other lane. So no matter what, you need to practice with, and what I've done in the past is I've set up with the minimum and practice turns on the minimum. Because if you can do the minimum, if it's bigger, you're good. You're laughing.
Great. That's really good advice, is to train to the minimum standard, and therefore you'll be prepared. That's really good advice. Another question from Kathy Smith. The V1 time trials, are they in rudderless sea lions, like, like after the fact rudders removed, or what are they?
No, Calgary, again, part of the legacy from the 2012 World Sprints that Calgary hosted and did a fantastic job, even though they couldn't control the weather of that hailstorm. They have Tevanuis. They have a fleet of Tevanuis that they allow us to trial in. And Calgary is an amazing venue for sprints. It doesn't seem like a likely paddling venue, but they've got the course there, the clubhouse right there, and they've got all the legacy boats from the 2012 event that they hosted, the timing tower, the course. So we're so grateful that they're interested in helping us out. And they have, and I'm just going to say it, I may offend some people, they have the best volunteers. They're at the Calgary Club I know there's other clubs that have amazing volunteers, but Calgary, they've got the best, hands down. Like the sheer number and bulk that come out to help with events like this and that helped out Worlds. We can't thank them enough.
All right, Ron, I'm going to pass the Sharon Taylor's question over to you around missing or empty free agent spots. Can you pose that to Leanne?
Oh, well, she's asking if registered as a free agent, but you can't make the trials, if there's a spot on a free agent crew available, could that spot go to you? If not, could your name go on a list if a spot becomes open in the future, if someone becomes injured?
Yes, so we will be putting together a list of people that tried out that may not have made it as potential spares if someone ends up not being able to go from either a predetermined crew or a free agent crew of whatever those end up making, whoever end up making those 6 club crews. So there will be a list of people that tried out to help fill spots that may be vacated. That's the word I'm looking for. If you cannot make the trial, so if we're doing the free agent trial and we have, say in 50s women, we have 16 people line up and trial the straight shot in the Sea Lion for the free agent ladder. Well, that only makes 2 crews, right? So that leaves off 4 people. So if you are unable to make it, then there'd be 5 people. But if there's, depending on how many predetermined crews there are registered as well to race off against those free agent crews, if we end up with our 6 crews already, I'm sorry, those 4 or 5 people are going to be, they're not going to make the team. But they could be available and on the list of spares for those free agents. Because if someone drops out of a free agent crew, then that's our responsibility as the IVF committee to then fill those spots. If you are on the predetermined club crew that you put together yourself, if you have a coach that is choosing your crew, that's kind of up to them. We're happy to consult on that. If it's just you as a group of friends doing it as the PD club crew, we're happy to consult on that as well and give you the list of people that were interested and wanted to go that are keen that could possibly fill a spot if you can't fill it yourself. So yes, if you can't make it, you could be put on a wait list.
Thanks, Leanne. I'm going to tackle this question. There have been a number of questions about V12s,
Okay.
and I know that it would be great if CORA could field a V12 this time. But the first question before I address Kat's question is how many V12 births are there? Is just one? Okay.
So in elite, there is just one. So that's the elite competition. If we look at the club competition, so that's where we have 6 V6 crews, we get 3 V12s. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So that's one of the reasons for the Sunday race off of the PD and free agents, because that also gives us the seating order for the PD crews, which is really important because we need to submit crews for the club crews based on seeds. And so that's how they set up all the heats when we get to Worlds. So we need some information. So even if you don't have to trial for your 6-man spot, it's great to come because we want to seed you. Otherwise, you're relying on us as a committee to seed you folks. And we'll decide, we'll put that out next month of how we're going to do that. How we would seed you if you're not coming to trials, kind of thing. Or if there's no need because say there's only 3 crews that wanted the 60s women's spot, say. This is a for example, because I know there's more than 3 crews of you folks. But our V12s are put together in terms of seed 1, seed 2, go together, seed 3, seed 4. Traditionally, that's how we've done it in the past. Because most places, there's not V12s for people to train together. And usually the V12 practice we get at Worlds is usually the first time our V12s get together. There are a few clubs now, more recently, that have V12s. I know Kelowna's one of them. Calgary, I think, has a V12 rigged. False Creek, Fairway Gorge, do you guys have any rigged?
No.
Yeah, we have, FG has three V12s on deck.
Falls Creek doesn't. No.
Okay. So if there is a club,
Ron, just a quick note, you can build a V12 in just 5 minutes.
Yeah, I know.
Doesn't take long.
it's just a storage issue.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we loan our Calmars over to Lotus for the icebreaker and so forth, but we don't have one rigged up, on
Yeah.
the
All
build.
right, just to get back to Kat's question, Kat, I'm going to assume that Leanne just answered your question very well because I understood it, and if I understood it, I'm going to assume other people did too.
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, so I think there's going to be, from what Leanne, thanks, Kat. From what Leanne has said, there's going to be more information coming out after the deadline, but the deadline is critical. So that committee needs data. And Leanne, I'm just going to let you speak to that before we pass it back to Ron, because we're just running to the top of the hour. So maybe just reinforce how important the registration is.
Absolutely. So right now on the CORA webpage, if you go onto the national teams tab and down to 2022 sprint team selection, the selection documents are here where it will walk you through the kind of things we just talked about. And on there as well is a link to the intent to compete form. This intent to compete form is due July 21st. We need this information in order to plan trials. So the information that I keep saying is going to come, next month. It's all going to be based on this data. So if you didn't fill out this intent form, your data is not counted. So we may not make the best decisions that we could if we had your data. So our decisions on going forward with the trials and a lot of those what if scenarios, we need your data on that intent form. What's going to come out next month is the registration form. So the registration form is going to have a fee. So if you haven't paid a fee for sprints, you are not registered. So nobody's registered right now. So if you're watching this come August and you kind of came late to the game and you missed the intent form because you had no idea about it for one reason or another, your friends just finally told you about it, you finally found us on the CORA webpage, you finally got personal messages from me bugging you, that kind of thing, then you can still register even if you didn't do a compete form, but it's got the price tag attached to it. There's going to be a small fee. It'll be somewhere between $20 and $30 to help pay for the trials and help go to what's going to be the IVF fund. So that helps going to uniforms and registration fees and coaches and clinics, camps, and our area coordinators and that kind of stuff. All the things, all the team management type of stuff that we have to do. So there's going to be more fees on top of that down the road for those that make the team. But the first one to register for the trials is going to be part of that registration form. Those registration forms will be due early September, like very early September, like think pre-Labor Day kind of thing. And that's what we will have, because then we can start building our race grid for trials. And once we have all those registrations forms, those registrations are closed, and we start building that race grid, that is when we will be able to let people know in those predetermined crews if there's more than 6 in that age category that you're going for. So if you're catching my drift, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. We need your data. You need to stay tuned. Stay up to date with the Facebook page, stay up to date with the web page, so that you don't miss any information. All right. If you get, by filling out the intent form, you will also get targeted emails with the information. So that's one of the other things that we need from those intent forms, is now we know that you are interested in sprints. We have your email. You will be getting everything emailed directly to you that deals with the registration, that deals with the trials, etc. Don't book travel yet. Did I miss anything?
Okay, one final question from Larry Burrows. If a club crew qualifies and has injuries and can't has empty seats, my understanding is that the club crew itself is responsible for filling those seats. Is that right?
If it's one or two, that's okay. Once we start, thanks, Brad. Once we get to filling kind of half the boat or more, that's a bigger issue. So that's something that we'll work with you from the IVF committee standpoint, work with you and the crew so that we can help everybody that wants to go be able to go, or everybody that qualified to go be able to go, but also not screwing anybody over that went through the whole process to try out.
Yeah, I think,
there's
Leanne,
a fine line there.
you've already answered that question before, and I think the fact that it's a gray area has to do with the subtleties. It's the subtleties of fair play. And so I think it's really important for crews and free agents, elite, everybody, just to make sure that you're communicating as best you can clearly and promptly with the IVF committee so that they can troubleshoot these things on the fly as they go. And I really think as long as you're in communication with them, it should all work out. And assuming that Brad is not going to book travel now, we are at the top of the hour. And I just want to quickly thank Leanne for taking time off of Georgian Bay to meet with us. And then I'm going to pass it over to Ron to close off today's meeting.
Before we close it off, I just want to ask Robbie or Scott from our CORA IVF committee, is there anything that I missed or I was inaccurate on, or you guys want to add?
No,
I'm good. That was good. I'll let Scott talk.
I think you covered basically everything.
All right, cool.
Good job.
Thanks. All right.
Okay.
Well, again, thanks everybody for your interest in the sprints. If you have questions, if you have comments, if you're not sure about something, by all means, please reach out to us. Again, IVF@CanadianOutrigger.ca, through the Facebook page, IVF@CanadianOutrigger.ca, or those of us that are on the committee personally, by all means, we can chat. Most of you know my phone number. You're welcome to give me a shout. Just know that I'm in Ontario, so don't call at 9 o'clock at night West Coast time because I'm in Ontario, just saying. I will not answer. And if you're in Ontario, you want to chat about stuff, or you want to kind of get an idea of where you're at with your sprinting ability, by all means, I can let you know.
Okay, thanks a lot, Leanne. That was a great session. Thanks everybody for joining us. As mentioned, we won't be resuming the Zooms until October after the sprint trials, after all that work is done. But there are a couple of racing opportunities coming up that have made it to the CORA calendar. First up is around Bowen. This year it's a small boats race. It's hosted by Falls Creek. It can either be run as one full loop of Bowen Island, and that it would be 33 kilometers, or two legs, one 18K and the other 15K. And you can do it in OC1, OC2. Rob, are you accepting registrations for SUPs or other small boats as well?
Yeah, it's open to pretty much any small boat with you want. So
Okay, great.
surf ski, sea kayak, whatever you want to bring, as long as it's not an open rowboat. Anything that's safe to travel in waves, welcome to put the registration down.
That's great. Okay. And then after that is Fairway Gorge's Splash Dash, which I think is August the 7th. And that's a multi-hull race over in Victoria. And then the first true OC6 race would be Comox Island Iron on the weekend of August 28th and 29th. The OC6s would run on the Saturday. the small boats on the Sunday, and we've been told it's going to be roughly 14 to 18 kilometers. We've asked them to have it on the shorter side because people haven't been training in the C6s recently. They've only just gotten started. So hopefully we'll see people at those races coming up. And we'll keep you posted if any more races make it to the calendar. Rumors are that some races that may have been scheduled for earlier in the year might be shifted to a fall schedule or something. So keep your eyes out for that.
And can I just acknowledge that the Lotus Poker Paddle graciously moved their weekend to accommodate the sprint trials in Calgary. So thank you so much to Grace and everybody at Lotus for taking the shift. Luckily, we gave them enough notice that it was doable for them. So thanks again, Lotus, for doing that for us.
Cool.
All right, thanks everyone. We're at 5:01, so just be aware that the recording for this meeting and Leanne's fabulous property on Georgian Bay will be televised, rebroadcast as you desire on the CORA website effective tomorrow. So the link will be up there, and we'll include other resources on that IVF area, but also on the main page, so that you can just click the link and then you can fast forward to the good spots. And soak it up again if you'd like, or pass it along to other friends who might be interested in sprints. So without further ado, I think we can all go back to our summer evenings. So thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.